welcome to The Zest, the official podcast of Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Ranieri, and today's guest is an acclaimed contemporary artist, photographer, two-time world skateboarding champion, and owner of the skateboard company Toy Machine. He has published more than 20 photography books, and his work has been exhibited worldwide. Last year, he released Wires Crossed, a compilation of photographs, collages, interviews, and more, chronicling skate subculture between 1995 and 2012. Thank you so much for being here today, Ed Templeton.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
That was a mouthful of an intro.
I was like, I had it. And then I had that one little hiccup. I was like, dang, so close. But I actually grew up in Huntington Beach too. And I went to Huntington High School. And when I was telling my husband, I get to have this conversation with you. He mentioned that you used to be like a legend at the skate park there. So it's a small world.
Yeah, I went to Huntington High School as well, all 4 years. And,
Nice.
And when they built the skate park, since I lived locally, that was my little jam. As a pro, I guess we used it as sort of a warm-up spot.
Oh, no way.
Like skate the park a little bit and then drive somewhere else to go film something or whatever. But I loved it. I mean, that park has such a fond memory in my heart because it was, I don't know, so much stuff happened for me there. I did a book called Teenage Smokers, which originated at the skate park because I would be there skating all day. And inevitably when the high school would get out, all the like ne'er-do-wells would come to the skate park and start smoking. And as an older dude at that point, who had gone to that high school, it was just kind of fascinating. Like, oh, here's the cycle again. Like all the, the quote unquote bad kids hang out at the skate park and smoke cigarettes. And so I brought a Polaroid camera one day and with the intention of like getting portraits of kids smoking more because I was tripped out at how young they were. Yeah. Like, cause I've never smoked and I've always hated it. And so it just tripped me out. I'm like, God, these kids are so young and they're smoking already. Anyway, it looks kind of cool. So there's like Humphrey Bogart quality to it, I guess. I don't know. And so I started asking them for portraits. I would ask them, can I shoot a photo of you just inhaling on a cigarette? And that was the nugget of that series. Like the bulk of it is all these Polaroids of kids from the skate park smoking. And then it kind of branched out as I would travel the world. I would shoot kids smoking in different skate parks and different places wherever I was.
That's so cool. So how did you initially get into skating?
I feel like as someone who lived in Huntington Beach, it was almost inevitable that you would find surfing or skateboarding. It's kind of one or the other. It feels like. And so for me, I was just like a street urchin kid, living downtown on Joliet and Alabama Street. Yeah.
My friend lives like right on that street. That's crazy.
Joliet in Alabama. The house where we lived was a duplex that's not there anymore. They leveled it and put one of those tall and skinny houses there as they're doing all over downtown Huntington Beach. So the house doesn't exist, but the street obviously is still there, and a bunch of the characters is still there. And so I was just a kid, and I saw these kids skate by, and they hopped down the curb and went across the street and then just ollied up the curb on the other side. And that is what hooked me right there. I was like, how are these kids levitating their boards up that curb, because I had a little skateboard and I would roll around, but, a curb was like, stop, pick it up, put it down, keep going. So like the fact that these guys could just like fly up this with so much grace was just as a little kid was enough to get me to be like, that's what I want to do. I want to learn how to do that.
How quickly did you like pick up on it?
From the moment I started that was like 1985, I guess. I was pro by 1990. So that's how,
oh my God,
that's how fast it sort of happened, I suppose. Within a couple years, starting skating, this area was an incubator at that point. This is like a early days of street skating. There was only a couple forefathers right ahead of us, like only a few years removed. Mark Gonzalez, who also lived in Huntington Beach at the time, who was a famous, I mean, he's the godfather of street skating, basically. And he lived here. So we got to see him skate. We were like kids watching this legend invent a thing, you know? And so it was a hot spot. And there's these famous sessions that happened at the basketball courts across the street from the high school called Pay and Play. It was Pay and Play Racquetball. Used to be there. That building is gone now too, but across the street from the high school was this Pay and Play Racquetball court, and all these the basketball courts I think are pickleball courts now.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, those pickleball courts. So those pickleball courts were just basketball courts, and the local kids around started a word of mouth session. So on Friday nights and Saturday nights would be the Pay and Play session, and kids from La Habra, kids from, Costa Mesa, Newport, Long Beach would come with their whatever stuff they had. So they would bring like a slider bar, a launch ramp, all these little makeshift obstacles, and throw them down, and it would be this huge session. And those sessions are legendary as far as being incubator of innovation, because all these kids from different areas were learning new things. It felt like a new thing, street skating, kids out in the streets imitating the guys on the vert ramps. So all this stuff would happen. The freestyle guys that lived here that rode for Vision skateboards would practice on those basketball courts in the daytime. And so kids were picking up freestyle moves, and a lot of the innovation that happened in street skating can be traced back to these epic sessions at Pay and Play Racquetball courts.
It sounds like such a cool community to be able to help each other and like learn from each other.
It was an amazing time, really. Looking back on it, I mean, at the time you don't really realize you're living in it, but yeah, when you look back, it's pretty incredible what happened there. Like that kind of scene. Someone should do a documentary on just that.
Yeah,
the Pay and Play sessions. There's some footage laying around somewhere.
Is this where the Beautiful Losers came from, or can you talk a little bit about that group?
That came a lot, not that much later, but a little bit later. So I, simultaneously to turning pro, I was painting as well. So I started painting the same year I turned pro in 1990. I had gone to Europe for some skateboard contests and came home super inspired by the museums and the art and the history of Europe. As a sheltered OC kid, seeing that for the first time was eye-opening. And so, I naively proclaimed I was going to be a painter from then on. And I was painting the whole time, and I not really showing anything, just painting and putting it in a closet, really. But at some point, I branched out a little bit, and around 1993, this guy, Dan Field, organized a skateboard art show. So he realized that there was all these people in skating, pro skaters and amateur skaters, but a lot of the known pros were actually creative in some way, doing painting, photography, sculpture, and other things like that.
Wow. So
he organized this show at at a gallery in Chicago called World Tattoo Gallery, I think it was called, but the show was called The Degenerates, which is a throwback to the Nazi art show of all the art that they thought was degenerate art. And I mean, it was Mark Gonzalez, Chris Miller, Thomas Campbell. A lot of the people that ended up being in Beautiful Losers were part of the show because they were already in skateboarding. That was the start of it. And then 1994, 1 year later, I was invited by Aaron Rose at the Alleged Gallery in New York City to do a solo exhibition there.
Wow.
And he's the catalyst for that, for Beautiful Losers. He's the person who, had a gallery space in the Lower East Side, on Ludlow Street, right a couple doors down from the famous Max Fish Bar. And so there was a definite scene going on in New York, and he was showing skateboarders and graffiti people, stuff that wasn't necessarily considered highbrow art at that point. And so I had a show there, and that again was a eye-opening experience for me, kind of visiting New York for maybe the second time. I had gone there for skating before, but I don't know, getting injected into a world of, and that's where the Beautiful Losers was starting. Cause I mean, the night we showed up to New York, Mike Mills, who's one of the people in Beautiful Losers and a famous director now.
Oh, wow.
He did the movie. Oh gosh, I'm spacing on all the names of his movies. Beginners, Thumbsucker, and he did a movie with Christopher Plummer. He won the Oscar.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, Mike Mills is an amazing director, graphic designer, and he had done the invitations for an Anna Sui fashion show. So he had tickets to go to this fashion show. So the night we drove in, we were driving through Virginia 1 hour with a minivan filled with paintings. We get to New York, and within like 5 minutes, we were whisked off to an Anna Sui fashion show.
That's so cool.
Like, we're like dodging a deer in Virginia on the highway 1 minute, and then watching Kate Moss walk down the runway and Naomi Campbell like a minute later. And that was just like a crazy jump into the New York world.
Yeah.
And so go ahead.
Oh, like what is the Beautiful Losers for listeners who don't know? It's like a collective of artists, or?
So as Aaron was doing these shows and showing these people, he sort of recognized a trend, a theme of these creative people that weren't necessarily accepted by the art world. And so he made a documentary. That's how this started. He had made a documentary and started to organize a show, and that the show was called Beautiful Losers. And it was a way to say, hey, these are people that, although they don't, like a lot of movements are, think of Cubism, for instance. There was a manifesto and people said, this is what we subscribe to. This is our idea. And this is how we're painting based on our ideas. Right. The Beautiful Losers doesn't have that connectivity of like, we're all painting the same way or doing the same thing. It was more the backgrounds we came from. These are people that came from other professions in a way, like surfing, skating, graffiti, that were doing fine art. And so he did a documentary just detailing, here's a bunch of these people, like each section is a profile on people like me and Barry McGee, who was a famous graffiti writer who was starting to do art exhibitions, Mike Mills, who was a graphic designer at that point, but branched into doing films, and all these people surrounding the Beautiful Losers, like Spike Jonze, even, who is an Oscar-winning director, who did Her and Where the Wild Things Are and all that stuff. I mean, he was a skate photographer. He shot me photos of me as a photographer for Transworld magazine back in the day. And then he went on to, even though he wasn't, he might've been in the Beautiful Losers movie, but I don't know if he was one of the profiled artists. But there's a bunch of people surrounding it. There's so much creativity in skateboarding that was, so Beautiful Losers was a way for him to kind of make this documentary and this show that, highlighted that. And in a way, I don't think any of us were trying to do this, and he was just trying to shed some light on a certain group of people. But it kind of became a movement. It felt like a movement almost. Like people call us the Beautiful Losers movement or something, which all of us kind of balk at in a way, because we don't, no one wants to be labeled or, and like I was saying, none of us practice the same kind of artwork. All of us have such diverse styles and everything. There's no uniform style. But looking back, it was great. It was great to be like part of something that might help etch your name into art history.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I love that it kind of breaks the mold of what people think an artist is. And also skateboarding seems so creative, and surfing and stuff like that. So it makes sense that you guys would have different like mediums for your art as well. But to go back a bit, I do want to talk about, so you mentioned you were sponsored by New Deal Skateboards, and then that same year you won your first world championship at just 18 years old. Take me back to that day. Like what were you feeling?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was mentioning I went to Huntington High School. I hate saying this because it's not a good example for people, but I never graduated. So technically I'm a high school dropout because I had maybe 2 or 3 months left of high school.
Oh, no way.
And I was sponsored at this time, and I just turned pro. And my sponsor, New Deal, says, hey, there's these contests in Europe. It's like a big contest circuit for a month. There's like 4, contests every weekend. And we want to send you to this contest. And so I was like, okay, I've got to go. Like, this is a once in a lifetime chance. I grew up really poor, actually. We didn't have a lot of money. So to me, this was like my possibly one and only chance to get to Europe and to skate and to see Europe and all that. So, and like I said, when I came back, I was so inspired to like start, painting and drawing and everything.
Yeah.
So a lot of pivotal stuff happened right at 18 and going to Europe for the first time. So I go to these contests. But before that contest, the first summer, I was invited on a summer tour with my friend Mike Valley, who's another well-known pro skater. He set up his own demo tour. So we did this demo tour across the United States. It was 30 demos in 30 days.
Whoa.
We're doing a skate demo every single day. And a demo is like, you show up at the skate shop and they have obstacles, or maybe there's a skate park, and you show off what you can do for the kids for 2 to 4 hours, and you sign autographs, and then you get in the car and drive to the next spot and do the same thing. It's like a concert tour for a band.
Okay.
Same kind of thing. You're just on tour, basically driving around and doing, your show or whatever. We don't really call it a show, but it was just like skating with the kids. And so I think because I had done this tour before these contests, it was like a 30-day training session, because I had all my tricks on lock. Everything I, could do, I could just land it every time, because I was so used to skating all these different obstacles and skating, 4 hours every day and, doing your best stuff kind of thing. So when I got to these contests, I ended up winning all of them in a row. The first one was the World Championship. So yeah, I became world champion.
Oh my God.
In Münster, Germany, right? Because I just couldn't fall off my board. I mean, part of, you have to like do a 45-second run on the course, and part of being scored is just don't fall off. You got to stick to landing. And so I think because I had done that demo tour ahead of time, I was just, you couldn't push me off the board, So I stayed on all my runs, and we were, again, we were kind of, because of the pay and play sessions I was mentioning, my generation was threatening and pushing out the older generation of guys. We were innovating. So when I showed up at the contest, I was bringing new tricks that no one had ever seen. Doing like a 1-foot lip slide on the handrail, or doing flip tricks on the banks, and a lot of the older pros weren't doing that. So there's kind of like a progression that was happening too. So it was almost like hands down, this guy has to win, even though the establishment didn't want you to win. They wanted their favorite to win, and you're just like some young kid coming up, and yeah, it's like Djokovic versus Nadal and Federer. Everyone wants to hate Djokovic because their beloved Federer and Nadal out of the tennis world. But
the only reference I have for this is like Lords of Dogtown. When I think of that one scene where they all come in and they're in a contest and they're doing all these things that no one had seen before. It's like,
yeah, it was similar to that, like fast forward, 5 or 10 years.
yeah.
10 years, I guess, after maybe even 15. I don't even know. Yeah, I guess we're talking 60s. So yeah, 20 years later.
Dang.
But it's a similar kind of vibe, where just a new tricks and new skaters were coming and kind of pushing out the old guard a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's 4 contests in a row. I won all the contests, which helped put my name on the map, because I was a new pro. I wasn't known yet, but this really kind of put my name on the map, as far as all the magazines had to cover the contest back then. So suddenly I'm like getting covers of magazines and getting all this coverage in the magazines, because this new guy became world champion and won the contest. So it really like helped up my profile in the skate world, I guess.
Yeah, this literally could be a movie. This is so awesome. And then you started Toy Machine, a blood-sucking skateboard company. I love the name. In 1993. What inspired you to start your own company, and also how'd you come up with this name?
Okay, so I had gone through a tumultuous couple of years with I rode for New Deal, but then the aforementioned Mike Valley was wanting to start his own company. And so we got together and started a company called TV, which, and I think in his head stood for Templeton Valley, but in my head, it was television, because I didn't want to name it. I couldn't handle having my name as the company. But, it was like a weird time in skateboarding too. It was a really unproductive period in general, sales wise and stuff. So it was a bad period. So it was rocky, and we switched backers and went to reformed it as Television Skateboards. Then that fell apart, and I went 8 months without any sponsors, calling everybody, trying to come up, because I guess the reason I started Toy Machine is I had a little taste doing our own company, calling the shots, and I was already so creative doing artwork and stuff that I was like, I have all these ideas for graphics and advertisements. I had a team of people already that wanted to do something with me if I could get something started. So ultimately, Vision Skateboards, which is a huge company that was based here in Costa Mesa, that we all grew up loving. Mark Gonzalez wrote for Vision. I ended up calling Brad Dorfman, who runs Vision, and giving him this idea. He had the money, I had the idea, so we formed Toy Machine.
Wow. And you were like 20.
What's that?
You were like only early 20s, right?
Yeah, I was. I guess I was pretty young looking back. I didn't. I like the idea of starting a company just because I knew that skateboarding is a finite pro skateboarding is a finite endeavor.
Right.
Something my grandfather taught me is just to look long term about things, and so your body can only hold up for so long. And as a skateboarder, you're essentially a marketing tool, which is kind of a low rung in a company's bottom line in a way. So it's kind of a precarious profession, really. I try to tell the guys on my team to think about it this way. If let's say you live 80 years, only the first quarter of your life is going to be skateboarding, most likely, and you have 3/3 of your life to do something else. You got to think about that and prepare yourself, and so get educated and save money and do all the smart things you can do to don't buy a stupid Cybertruck or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start it. Plus I had that little taste of calling the shots, which was nice. And I had these ideas. So for me, it was like a creative outlet, and it was also something to do knowing that once I couldn't skateboard anymore, I would be involved in this thing that I love so much. Like, skateboarding gave me so much. The community that I was immediately surrounded with when I found skateboarding it gave me everything. Everything I do comes from those early formative years and the people I was around. And so, it was like that. Those are the reasons. The name comes from, I was kind of playing around with the idea of calling it toy skateboards or machine skateboards. And I asked a friend, hey, what do you think about those names? And then he's the one who said, why not both?
Oh,
I was like, Toy Machine. Yeah, I guess that works. And so that's why it became Toy Machine. And then we threw on the subtitle Blood Sucking Skateboard Company, because one of the dilemmas with marketing, which I hate in general, I hate ads, I hate marketing. And so here I am, like, with this dilemma of, like, I have to do the thing I hate. One of the things I hate the most is marketing and ads. So we kind of just chose to be really tongue in cheek about it, and imagine what, Monsanto wishes they could, how they wish they could have Coca-Cola or Nike, like, if they could, they would employ brain control. But they can't, they have to, but, skateboarding is so kind of irreverent, and there's no policing, nobody calling, making sure you can't do or say anything. So our marketing has just been, like, overly aggressive in a tongue-in-cheek way, where we talk about brainwashing, we talk about getting addicted to skateboarding, kind of using, like, drug terminology. I'll use cult terminology, like, yeah, like Toy Machine is a cult leader. My name is the benevolent overlord. We call our like fans loyal pawns of the blood sucking skateboard company. So yeah, all the ads are like kind of like, steal your mom's credit card and buy Toy Machine. Purchase is mandatory. One of our new
so you have fun with it.
We await your capitulation. I saw that in the Godzilla movie. The aliens in the Godzilla movie said, "We await your capitulation." And I was like, "Oh, that's a new Toy Machine tagline."
I love that. That's so fun. And so, what do you look for when you're sponsoring skaters now?
It's always just been about talent for us. That's the one thing that always came first. It's like really easy to get lost in like, oh, let's make all these cool graphics, and that could overtake. I never wanted like the art and the artsiness to overtake the real thing that Toy Machine is a skateboard company. As a kid, I like want to see great skateboarding. So like rule number one is have an amazing photo in the ad. There might be a bunch of writing and crazy stuff all about it, all around the ad, and present it in a way, but ultimately we're presenting an amazing skate photo by an amazing skater. And so that's been the main thing. And like, and through the years, we've had this incredible run of, all these legendary skateboarders have ridden for us, and have the freedom to kind of do what they want. I mean, Jamie Thomas is a huge skater who, a couple years into sponsoring him, I realized like this guy's he's too industrious and business minded to like stay with Toy Machine. Of course, he like left us and started his own company, and that became a huge thing. And he was like awarded Businessman of the Year. Oh my God. San Diego or something at one point. And he does Fallen Shoes and Zero skateboards. But yeah, all these amazing people. Brian Anderson, who rode for us, was world champion back to back. We sponsored the first female street skater.
Wow.
Pro street skater. There's a woman, Cara Beth Burnside, who was the first pro skater. She's amazing. But no one had been turned pro as a street skater before, like a female. So we had Alyssa Steamer on our team.
Wow.
And then we turned her pro. She was the first female pro street skater. So I'm proud of that. Like that's a great milestone to have. Like we treated her like one of the guys. I mean, there was no pink boards or you have to do this or wear a skirt or something like that. Like she was just, all her graphics, all her ads were just like the same as everyone else. We didn't give her, any special treatment. Yeah. And that's what she wanted. She was just one of the guys. And so cool. Incredible. I mean, such a groundbreaking icon at this point. Still, she's like just had the cover of Thrasher this year, I think, which is incredible.
Oh my God.
At age 45 or something.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, we did talk about how you got into painting for a bit, and I did see actually your slow tide towel, which was really cool. But how did you transition into doing photography?
So I started painting in 1990. In 1994 is when I picked up a camera in earnest, I guess. I had been shooting a little bit like a tourist, right? But it was 94 when I realized I should be documenting this world, this life I get to live, Yeah. One of the main things is like, I really felt like I wasted 4 years traveling the world with all these insane people. That's another part of it. Like, is like I've always been sober and vegan my whole life, like since 1990 I've been a vegan, and I didn't smoke or do drugs or drink or anything like that. So the whole time I was doing all this, I was surrounded, all the people on my team were total potheads, alcoholics. So they're living this rock star life. And that's like one thing that gave me one little bit of remove, I was like I'm part of this group of people, but I'm also just like, there's something where I'm the sober guy. And it was my company. So I was kind of like responsible, quote unquote,
right.
In a lot of ways to like get everyone from point A to point B alive was my job. And so there was a I felt like a shepherd in some ways. I had this group of people, and a lot of time, and in some ways, I was also like 1 or 2 years older than everybody too. So I was, I was the responsible one. And so, I started. The reason I picked up the camera was because I realized I had wasted 4 years getting to live this incredible life. Who gets paid to do the thing they would be doing anyway? We all love skating, and we're skaters and hardcore skaters, and like that's what we would. Even if we were getting paid, that's probably what we would be doing. So, I picked up a camera to start shooting that scene. Our culture, I guess, skate culture, and the people I was around and the people I got to see, and then the cities that I got to go to. And it just branched out from that. I just started shooting everything. So I became a street photographer in 1994.
Wow. I'm sure you have so many, but do you have a favorite memory that you can share of a photo that you captured while you were touring?
Sure. Oh, one other thing to add to that is that I think, as a pro skateboarder, we were always surrounded by photographers shooting us for the magazines. They had to shoot me skating to put in Thrasher magazine or whatever. So I was around like a camera culture. So I was like, I never went to class or anything. I just learned from all my photographer friends who, if I had a question about f-stop or shutter speed or whatever, they would just give me the rundown. So that's another reason I think I was so surrounded by photographers that it was easy to pick up.
I took a photography class at Huntington. It's really complicated. That's cool that you were able to just kind of learn it from your friends. Yeah,
I mean, at first it's complicated, like getting, now it's just second nature, all the lighting and stuff. For me, as I just walk around, without even having a camera, I just know what the shade looks like and what to put the camera at. And because it's like a mixture of light and time. So, but I remember at the beginning being so bewildered by it too. Like, what? How does it? Like, what's? I couldn't get it around my head. But once you get it in, it just becomes. I don't even think about it anymore.
Wow, that must be so nice. So do you have a favorite memory of a photo that you captured while you were touring?
There's no way. I mean, all of them are so bring back so many memories in different ways. And a lot of them almost like touch on different aspects and subjects, so it's like favorite photo of someone who's not a skateboarder, favorite, like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
It's impossible to really say. I mean, there's like, I just did a show called Wires Crossed in a book, and people would ask me, what's your favorite photo? And instead of saying all of them, I tried to like have one ready. So I've been saying this one here. I know viewers won't be able to see this, but it's
that's so cool. This is on YouTube, so go to YouTube to see it.
It's really pro skater Brian Anderson, who had just won the World Championships in Dortmund, Germany that year.
Wow.
He's sitting on a windowsill at an open window. This is a hotel in Germany. And so, of course, there's like porn on the TV, which is typical of a skate tour. Lots of pornography all over the place. And maybe it's also kind of like typical of Europe in a way, like where there's a weird porn channel on the TV. And the reason I like this photo so much is because, one, it captures this moment right after he had won the World Championship. So he had a crazy day. I mean, he skated really hard. It's grueling getting through a contest. You have to do these runs and practice, and there's multiple runs and all this stuff. And skateboarding is pretty brutal. You take a lot of slams. Mm-hmm. But then after winning, he gets hounded by autograph seekers, and he has to do interviews and all this stuff. So this like represents this moment when he had like got back to the hotel, took a shower, was having this quiet moment where he looks out into this black void, having a cigarette. And I love that moment. And it also, like with the porn on the TV, it kind of typifies, it also like speaks to like the skate culture at that time, a lot of toxic masculinity and whatever. But what's amazing now, fast forward these 20 years, he was in the closet the whole time.
Wow.
So he's the most famous. Brian Anderson is the most famous gay pro skateboarder at this moment in time.
That's amazing.
And during the whole time he rode for Toy Machine, he was closeted, never told anybody, because he had seen so much homophobia in the skate culture. He wasn't ready at that moment to like wear that mantle or deal with what may have happened. I mean, I think at that moment he thought he would lose all his sponsors.
Oh, wow.
Not Toy Machine, because we talked about it after the fact, and he said part of the reason he didn't come out was because he knew I would be so happy about it that I would like make a big deal out of it, which he didn't want. He didn't want a big deal to be made out of it. So that was one of the reasons. So in a way, I kept him in the closet by being so unhomophobic that he just wasn't ready at that moment to like wear that mantle. And then when he did, of course, later, he's like the ultimate hero for so many gay skaters out there. For someone to be brave enough to say, yeah, I am gay in this like super masculine sport. And no one batted an eye, like everyone embraced him, which is amazing. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, looking at that photo now, it also has a different, like a double-sided meaning, because here's this guy with like porn on the TV, but in the book, we interview a bunch of the key characters in the book, and Brian Anderson's in the book a lot. And we were able to talk about that, both his sobriety now. I mean, he was like a really bad alcoholic, and he's sober now. So there's talk about that journey, and also talking about what it was like being in the closet at that time. Like just weird things like, you guys were like in the van, commenting on girls walking by, like, oh yeah, I'd fuck that girl or whatever, like all the stuff guys would say in a tour van.
Yeah.
And then he would secretly be like looking at construction workers, like saying like, look at those hot guys. He's like, I could never say that. I could never say that out loud. I could never talk about it because it was like a hidden memory or a hidden thing. So, it's like interesting hearing those insights from him, looking back on these photographs from back then. And so, yeah, that ends up being one of my favorites.
So what was it like for you to go through? So as I mentioned before, Wires Crossed it covers a span of 17 years. What was it like for you going through all of these different photos and reliving all these moments? And how did you pick, like, how did you narrow it down?
It was really hard to narrow it down. I think I did a systematic check of every photo I've ever shot, and ended up with something like 4,500 photos or something. Which isn't really that much when you consider I've heard of other projects where there's like 78,000 photographs or something. But 4,000 photographs. The first stab was just narrowing it down on the computer digitally. I have all these like JPEGs. My whole archive is digitally scanned. So it's all analog photographs. So they're all negatives, but I scan the proof sheets and I have these little JPEGs I can look at. They're really small and low res actually, so it's hard to see them. Yeah. But I would, over years, I would just narrow it down. So my first goal was to turn 4,000 into 2,000. Then I'd come back and do 2,000 into 1,000. And then, when I got to around 300, I started sort of shaping the book at that point. It was hard. It was cathartic. It was like, obviously memory lane, remembering stuff. And I guess that's where like the sketchbooks come into it. I know you were going to ask me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I would love to talk about that as well.
Part of it was, my archive is really well put together, but dating was I was always really bad at dating everything. Yeah. I should have from the beginning dated everything. So dates are a little weird. So I was, I have this weird little sheet that I just leave by my computer, like the names of my albums with the dates. So I can kind of see if a photo is from like book 67. I know that was in 2018 or whatever. Yeah. In some cases, if I didn't have that, I would start looking through my sketchbooks because I kept a diary on tour, a spotty diary and / sketchbook the whole time. I mean, I still do, but mostly on when I'm traveling. Mm-hmm. And so I dug into those to try to find dates originally. But then as I was digging through it, I was starting to read some little passages and realizing that and I had spoken about some of the photos I actually took. Like I have
Oh
like
my God.
me taking the photo, like going here and then taking a photo. So I started like scanning some of the text out of these books. I have one of them here that I can show you. It's like,
yeah.
So they're like super illustrated.
Wow.
Um,
Oh my God. These are so detailed.
yeah, I found these incredible books in England.
Oh, I like that one. Wow.
That this company Dalaroni makes, and it's like cartridge paper. It's called. So like I think this drawing it might be in the book. This one over here.
That was really cool. Wow. My journals look nothing like this. This is so detailed and
well, they got more detailed over the years. Like the earlier ones were a little more like here's one that's also we're more like just black and white, and sometimes
it's still really cool though.
Put a photo in there or something, but
awesome.
What was I saying? Oh, so I started realizing that there was like passages that would really help illuminate the photographs and end up turning it into more of a journal or like a scrapbook. And so as I was building the book, I just started incorporating all sorts of text and ephemera, and because I had kept little pieces of things, such as like the "show your boob" sign that the guys had in the tour van. Just that kind of stuff. I would just keep it and show it, and that's another reason. Part of why we did the interviews in the back of the book too was to kind of put it into context, because there's like so much whatever, like white kid privilege and little assholes in a skate van going across the country terrorizing, and there's a lot of toxic masculinity and stuff like that, which something we didn't think about then, but everyone has evolved. All the people that were doing that stuff when they were young have evolved and look back with embarrassment at some of the stuff we did. So there's a lot of embarrassing stuff in the book that just kind of speaks to like what a bunch of like teenage kids do in their free time and stuff like that. Chasing women obviously is like was a big part of it for a lot of these guys. I mean, I was married already, so again, like part of my remove and being able to shoot all this was just I was watching these kids live these insane lives, and so part of organizing the book was to work by themes too. So interesting. Yeah, so I was one of the themes is like the brutality of skateboarding. Like, so I would always shoot people's injuries. People are always hurt, bruised.
I saw photos of those. Those are crazy.
Yeah, cuts and bruises and swollen butts and scabs and stuff like that. And so I would always be there shooting that stuff just by nature. I mean, we're just part of it's just part of the culture, like always shooting that. So I wanted to have that as one of the themes, and then the clash between skateboarding and security and cops is a big part of it, because essentially what street skaters do is illegal for the most part. Like nobody wants you skating on their property because they're worried that you'll sue them. People worried about damage and stuff like that. So a lot of the things we're doing and jumping fences and skating schoolyards and the things that we really want to skate the most people do not want us to skate. So there creates a dichotomy there. And so that's part of it, showing that aspect of it. The self-medication that these guys were doing. So like obviously the drug use, nothing too crazy really. There wasn't a lot of like heavy drug use, at least in my world. I have one photo of someone chopping up some cocaine in the book, but really it was mostly just weed and beer. But weed was illegal the whole time I was shooting this. So it was kind of like there was like a element of illegality to a lot of this stuff that was happening then. And the fame is a part of it. Something I noticed was just how the skaters used their fame as leverage to like try to get girls, or adopting a rock star lifestyle.
Yeah.
Sometimes fame can change people into little buttholes, so it's like that aspect of it. I wanted to make it a warts and all sort of like look at skateboarding, a real true look at it, but even the bad side of it. So those are some of the themes that go throughout the book. And boredom is one of the biggest themes, because a lot of skate touring is waiting. You're just waiting to get from point A to point B. Lots of road hours in the van, flying, waiting, and then the skating part. The demo is only like 5 hours in one spot, and then you're back on the road for 10 hours, kind of thing.
Oh man!
So a lot of road hours, and that's a big part of what might sound boring, but it's like what before cell phones, we did a lot of stuff to entertain ourselves.
Yeah,
on those tours.
So I know that you had a show for this in Long Beach. Is that right?
Yeah, the show, the Wires Cross exhibition, started in Maastricht in the Netherlands. That was the first museum.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then it was shown here at the Long Beach Museum of Art. And there's currently a smaller version of the show, a big room. I mean, it's a big room of the show, but smaller than the huge museum show. Currently up at Pier 24 Museum in San Francisco.
Amazing. Do you have any coming down in Orange County at all, or?
No, I mean, the Long Beach was the closest it's going to get, I think, to Orange County. Mm-hmm. The Pier 24 Museum is an incredible photo museum in San Francisco that nobody knows about. They don't advertise. It's really like kind of an underground place, but it's one of the best photography museums in the world.
Wow.
And it's right there, as the name might imply, it's right there on Pier 24. So if you know where the Bay Bridge comes across from Oakland, the Pier 24 is under the Bay Bridge. So when you like enter this building, you look up and you're under the Bay Bridge. So it's like a short walk from the ferry building towards the baseball field. And it's an incredible space. It's free to go to. It's like the Broad. You sign up for an appointment and it's free. And I'm part of a big group show there, and it's their last show, so they're closing in January 2025. Oh no! So anyone who is in San Francisco really should make a point, and you're interested in photography, your mind will be blown by this place. It's the show on right now has a room of my stuff, but there's, Avedon, Robert Frank. There's a huge Jim Goldberg room, and just a ton of amazing photographies in there right now.
Funny enough, I'm seeing a friend from San Francisco tonight, so I will definitely tell her and her friends to go.
If she hasn't, like I said, it's most people even people from San Francisco haven't heard of it. Nobody knows about it. And it's been there for like 8 years, or I don't even know how long it's been there, but it's been there for a long time.
Wow. Well,
the show, I don't know what we were talking about. We went on a tangent, but the show showed there. The show, I still have the show now in storage. So I'm looking for more venues. We've been hoping to see if a venue in Japan wants to get it.
Oh my God.
I'm talking with a couple people in the UK, maybe somewhere in London. So the show's still potentially travel. It's able to travel still.
That's so cool. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't ask, how did the daily HB Peer photos start? Because I love these. Okay, so the daily HB Peer photos is iPhone shots, and for the most part, I go down there to shoot with my film camera all the time. I keep it kind of separate in a way. I don't show any like digital photos in my exhibitions or anything. So in a way, the daily HB Pure photo was just like a fun, almost like byproduct of going down there to shoot with my film camera all the time. Sometimes you just can't get a photo with your camera, or it's like easier with the phone. So I would shoot, or sometimes I would just do stuff just for Instagram. So, because I was walking down there every day, I would just shoot iPhone photos, and kind of wanted to create a hashtag where they could all be collected in one spot if someone clicked that hashtag. Of course, tons of people started using it. So now when you click it, it's like, it's still a lot of me, but there's a lot of other people who use it as well. And so, it was just a way to kind of use social media in a fun way. And then it kind of got out of control where,
because I was posting every day from the HB pier and like what was happening down there, people started stalking me down there.
What?
Yeah, I would get these messages on Instagram like, when are you going to be down there? Or people would try to like secretly find me, like try to make a daily HB pier photo out of me. Like, like, so as I'm walking around, I'm like, I kind of feel people are like, are like trying to shoot me. Also, it's really weird because Instagram's a really weird place for photography in a lot of ways, because I have this following that I would say is mostly from the skate world, who know me as pro skater at Templeton and not so much as artist at Templeton. And so they're not coming from a world where they like understand photography and street photography and the spirit of it and like how you want to capture life and like what's happening. So a lot of people couldn't wrap their head around like, why is Ed Templeton shooting like strangers on the pier? It's really weird. Like, I don't get it, like, cause if you're not from that world or understand like why photography is interesting or cool, like in that way, it could be really weird. They're picturing like this pro skater guy, shooting someone at the pier without them knowing about it. It's creepy. It's weird. So I would get all these like all this pushback and commentary. Of course, you're shooting at the beach. Yeah, shooting at the beach has its own pitfalls because people are in bikinis and stuff. So there's like, if I'm shooting a photo from the pier, right next to me is probably a guy with a long lens who is shooting, bikini butts all day long.
Oh,
guys are down there all the time. Like, you look left and right, like any summer day, you'll see these guys with long lenses and you look at where their lens is pointing and it's like, oh, cleavage. But
no way. I had no idea.
And so I'm up there shooting and, an onlooker is like, well, that guy's the same as these guys, it's like,
oh no,
that's just some old creep shooting bikini girls down there. So it's like, it's a weird, dangerous kind of thing sometimes.
Well, I love them and I love seeing them.
It's hard to be like, I'm an artist. Like,
right.
These are fine art. Like, whatever. It's ridiculous. But,
that's so funny. Well,
so it's been fun. And the pandemic sort of, stifled that for us. We were like kind of staying in a lot. And I started painting a lot during that time just because it was like a guilt-free painting time. No one was doing anything. So I felt like I wasn't missing out by staying in the garage and painting. And then, I'm starting to kind of like, I've done a couple recently. I went down like last Saturday for the US Open and posted a couple daily HB Pure photos. It's fun. It's still fun. HB is still crazy. It's like foot of the pier at the HBO at the US Open. It was kind of like you had the Jesus signs were out in force and the Trump signs. It was like a Trump rally mixed with a religious rally or something like that. It was a very weird mixture.
Yeah.
But then when you pass that part and you get out on the pier, it's beautiful and you're just over the water and it's lovely and it's like the best of what Orange County has to offer, because a lot of my photography from down there, which is a big series I'm working on right now. Deanna and I have both been shooting for, I don't even know, 25 years down in HB. So we have plans to make a book maybe together where like a book that would be slipcase together, his and her version of like, because a lot of times we're shooting side by side, back to back in a way, but what she shoots is so different from what I shoot. And so it'd be really interesting to show two photographers who shoot the same place and how their view of the place differs.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I have so much work that I would probably do my own HB book at some point. And so, it's a love-hate relationship with Huntington Beach, coming from like the more liberal side of the world. In a conservative county. It's one of those things where it's something where I think my photography is critical, but also celebratory. It's like, people ask me, why haven't you left here kind of thing? Like if, because it's so conservative or weird, it's like living behind the orange curtain, they call it. It's like, but also it's amazing. It's like my packages don't get stolen off my porch. The weather is perfect almost every day. Except for there's been a lot of earthquake activity lately. And
I know, it's been weird.
Deanna is like deathly afraid of them and has a helmet next to her bed. and a go bag and everything like that. So she's been freaking out lately. That's the one thing we hate lately.
Yeah, I feel her on that. Well, I'm very much looking forward to when this Huntington Beach book comes out because that's going to be incredible. But we are coming to the end of our time. And before I let you go, before I let you go, I have 3 final questions for you that we call the Thoughtful 3. So what advice do you have for aspiring artists?
Okay, so aspiring artists need to jump in with 2 feet to the world that they want to be in. Mm-hmm. This is the biggest advice I give to people is participate, be a participant. It's like go to shows, share your work online, paint, of course, do your art, whatever that might be, do it, share it, and stop worrying about when it's going to happen. Everyone asks me, I do a museum show in Long Beach, and all I get is the question of like, how do you get this? And it's like they want me to give them some path from zero to a museum show. And it doesn't work that way. I'm like, you're missing the 15 years that I did coffee shop shows. I said yes to every show possible just to like get my feet in the door, So I was doing those cafe shows. I was doing these little crappy shows where you just walk in and hang your work on the show. You like participate with your local art center. I mean, there's a Huntington Beach Art Center here that you can, they would be delighted if you walked in and said, how can I show here? How can I work with you guys? And they'll love to tell you how you can get involved in your local community. So if you do that if you jump in with 2 feet and participate, it's the obviously stick to itiveness is part of it. You have to just be consistent, but fast forward 5 or 10 years, you'll be part of the scene because you like jumped into it.
Yeah.
So showing up is a big part of it. Being there, showing up. I mean, do the work. Mm-hmm. I love saying this quote, hard work doesn't guarantee success, but there's no success without hard work. So
I love that.
You have to work hard. That's a given. And you may or may not be successful. And even if you're not successful, you'll look back on your life and say, well, hey, I worked hard and I did all this great stuff and no one cared. Okay, whatever. But at least I did it. But there's no success without that step. So you got to do that.
Definitely. And then in my research, I read a quote from you that I loved about self-doubt. So how has self-doubt played a role in your career and how do you work through it?
Yeah, that's something I think a lot of artists deal with. I have it all the time, imposter syndrome and self-doubt. It's weird. You have to just almost shut that switch off and put yourself on the chopping block. That's part of what art is. You're offering something you made to be viewed, and for better or worse, someone's going to come by and say, this sucks. Yeah. But maybe one person goes, this is really cool. Or maybe one person says, hey, this would be better if you did this. And if you can't like take that criticism and realize it, then maybe you'll never learn. So it's like, that's part of the learning process is just putting it out there. So that first show I mentioned to you in 1994, I was really influenced by this German expressionist painter, Egon Schiele. And I watched a guy come into the gallery and just went, Egon Schiele ripoff. And he just said that out loud and then walked right back out. And I was just,
your art?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I was just like, oh my God. But it's like, I kind of knew it in a way. I was like, you know what? Like, if he can see that Egon Schiele influenced so much that he just walked in and declared it, I need to evolve, I need to change what I'm doing so it doesn't look like an Egon Schiele ripoff. So it pushed me, it bummed me out, but it also pushed me to I need to get past that.
Yeah.
So it's great to copy the people you love, whose art you love, but you have to almost absorb it and then take the next step.
Yeah. I love that. And then lastly, what moments in your career have had the biggest impact on who you are today?
What moments? Goodness. I mean, every artist needs a champion. And I guess I can look back through different periods and all of them involved somebody helping me.
Yeah.
Being invited by Aaron Rose to come to New York to do a show. I mean, that's a major milestone in an artist's life to do a solo show.
Yeah.
That's what everyone wants to do, like a solo show of your art. And I was, if it wasn't for him reaching out, I had to show my art to him. I had to show my art to the world and for someone to see. But that's like one thing that happened for me is someone saw what I was doing and said, "Hey, come do a show over here." And then suddenly you've got this person who is championing your art, telling other people about it and stuff like that. So, stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
All you need is one, really. You need one person who likes your art and you're successful in a way.
Oh.
There's so many like cool things that have happened though that, I mean, I won this art award called the Search for Art in the year 2000.
Oh, it was Italian?
Yeah, it was an Italian contest. I didn't even know. The weird part about it is I didn't even know that I was in it. So my gallerist,
really?
Aaron Rose, the gallerist, had sold the piece. There was a Teenage Smokers grid of photographs that was in a show in 1998, and an Italian collector bought it and had it in her house in Italy. She entered the piece in the Search for Art contest, told Aaron about it. Aaron forgot to tell me about it. So I have no idea this is happening at all. I get a call one day from some Italian guy saying like, "Hey, you're a finalist in this contest and you got to come to Italy." And I was like, "What?" Like, I don't even know what's happening. Like, what are you talking about? But in my head, I was like, wait, free trip to Italy?
Yeah, right.
I don't care what's happening. I'm just taking a free trip to Italy. So Deanna and I fly to Italy, and I'm part of this art contest. I have to install the piece. All these artists are there, trying. I mean, the prize is $50,000, so it's a big prize. Yeah. And so all these artists are there really wanting this prize, meticulously hanging their work, getting like super into it. And I was just like, "Oh, this is a free trip to Italy." And I wasn't even trying to be in this contest. So, I put up my piece really just like, there you go, I'm done, and we're doing tourist stuff. I was like on the rooftop of the cathedral in Milan when it was like time to go. I was like, "Oh, we're late. We got to go to this like art contest thing." And I'm like looking at a sunset on the roof of a cathedral.
Wow.
And then we go and I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, I had a broken neck at the time.
Oh, gosh.
So when we flew into the airport, I had this collar I had to wear. And because I broke my neck in this is the year 2000. I broke my neck in 2000. So part of the weirdness of it was when I got to the airport, there was a sign saying picking up people for the Search for Art thing. There was someone at the airport. And I'm in this shuttle that's taking us from the airport to the hotel. And two of the guys in the van with me are asking me like, "Oh, what happened to your neck? Like what, And I was like, "Oh, I'm a pro skateboarder." And they're like, "Wait, you're a pro skateboarder, but you're in this contest?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know about this contest. It's just like something I was put into without knowing." And they're like, "Do you have some of your work?" And I was like, at the time I carried around a little cassette case that I broke the little prongs off of in the inside. And I had printouts of photographs. Just like black and white, ink, not even inkjet, just like laser prints at the size of a cassette tape. And I showed these guys and they were flipping through my photos and they're like, "Oh, this is cool." I must have looked so weird, like this like really crappy presentation of photographs, a broken neck, not even understanding about the contest I was in. It turns out that two of those guys I was talking to were the judges.
Whoa.
They're like famous curators that I didn't know about. Like one was Jerome Sans from the Palais de Tokyo in Paris, and one was like Klaus Biesenbach he was like the director of, he was a director of MoCA for a while here. And I don't know. And so the Teenage Smokers won the contest. And it felt really bad actually, because like, I felt terrible because all these artists were really trying to win it and I almost didn't really care about it. And then I won it. And so I felt like really bad because I knew some of the artists, so like were friends of mine. So there was like a weirdness there.
But
What's that?
You got to go to Italy for free and you won 50 grand. Like that's
I got a free trip to Italy. I got 50 grand, which like help, like give me, I was able to sell my house in that, for like a short while. I lived in Fountain Valley because we couldn't afford a house in Huntington. So we bought a house in Fountain Valley, but I was able to sell my house in Fountain Valley, use that 50,000 extra to get into our house in Huntington now.
Wow.
And so it was like a real big, push. It was a great kind of thing that another, like one of those things that puts you on a map in some way, like helps increase your name in the art world a little bit and helps you in your life.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for doing this. This was so much fun. It's so cool getting talks to someone who's so successful from my hometown. So I had so much fun getting to do this.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very happy to talk to you and excited to have it come out.
Yeah.